Hi, it's Brendan Payne, Century 21 again. And I wanted to get you an update. I've been getting a lot of calls and texts on what's been the update or the impact so far on COVID and trying to get an update on what's happening and what's changed in the market. So I wanted to share that with you today, and I'll continue to kind of keep you updated. But so we're starting to open back up here. Obviously, South Carolina, we're in the second week of May now, and things are starting to open back up, get people back to work, which is all great. And so we've been now, I guess we're right at about 60 days that we've been dealing with this at some level, and there have definitely been some impacts. So let's talk about the three things that I want to cover today. First one is inventory. So we started the year in 2020 with low inventory relative to that time of year normally, and started picking up in good sales. So when you've got good demand and good sales and you have low inventory, then that's creating a nice healthy market. Low interest rates were good as well. And then we jump into, second week of March, and we begin the COVID process that we've all gone through. As you can imagine, we have lower inventory now for the time being than we did when we started this process. A couple reasons. One, you've got people that were thinking about maybe putting their property in the market over the last 60 days and said, you know what, I don't think I'm going to probably do that because either they're not moving, the place they can move to still shut down, a lot of different reasons. Or maybe they just don't want people in their home. Then you have the people that were on the market in January, February, March are typically large listing months in our market. So there was a good amount of inventory that had come on in the first 60 days. And for maybe the same reasons, those people took their homes off the market and said, I don't necessarily want anybody in here. So you have even less inventory. That is a good thing now that we're opening back up for the sellers. So if you are a seller or thinking about being a seller, this is a really good time to be on the market because demand's picking back up. People that want to move and have to move are looking, ready to buy, and there's less for them to choose from. Now, from the buyer standpoint, it's a bummer because there's less for them to choose from. So the inventory is probably the biggest thing that's happened that's out of the ordinary, that's a direct impact from the COVID. Number two is what's the procedures? What's the process? How has that changed? And it's in a couple of ways. First, I'll talk about how has it changed for actually going and showing property. You can imagine, just like when you go in the grocery store or you go in a hardware store or you're just kind of out and about, everybody is taking this a little bit different. So some people are doing exactly what they've always done, and it's no longer impacting them and how they behave. And other people, there is still a huge impact on how they behave and the things that they're doing. It's no different for buyers and sellers. So that means, from my standpoint, from an owner's standpoint, if you're selling your home, we have to make sure that we are meeting or we're available to meet everybody's needs in there. So I'm making PPE equipment available, sanitizer, gloves, masks, and stuff like that for those that want to be able to use them. Then we're making those available. And even, sometimes sellers are saying, I want to be on the market. I need to be on the market. I've got to get the home sold. But I can't have just on a whim people coming through, 3-4 times a day, then nobody tomorrow, then one the next day. And so we've done some things to accommodate that. And it's working well. I think people are adapting to maybe having a certain day where they have showings or a certain time of day that they have showings. So the key is people are really adapting to a lot of this stuff because it's impacted everybody. It's not like just one seller 6 months ago said, oh, I want showings on Tuesdays. That probably wouldn't work very well. But now people are being much more versatile. So it's a good thing. The other thing that has changed is in terms of from a marketing perspective, I've always done a lot with virtual marketing. So I've always focused on trying to generate leads that are looking for our properties in different parts of the country. We know where our feeder markets are. There are some people that are buying and upgrading or downsizing in our market, but a lot of them are coming from a different part of the country. So in the last 60 days, I've really, really focused on honing those things in making sure that we're getting the properties in front of the right type of buyer and we're putting them in the best light. So whether that's through the virtual marketing that we're doing, tours, walkthroughs, stuff like that, and making sure that we can capture those people as best as possible. The third impact, which is probably The one that is we're really keeping an eye on, because I think it's going to have some longer term effects, is what's happened with the short-term rental market or the investor market absentee owners. As you know, this market's got a lot of people that either own second homes, they own investment properties as long-term rentals, or they own short-term rentals. And of course, those are all being impacted right now. Most importantly, probably the short-term rentals. So you've got people where they own property where an entire month where we were shut down and no short-term rentals could be booked, then that income's gone. The other part of the short-term side is, you can imagine there were people that maybe weren't booked in March, but when March is canceled, they looked at it and said, or part of April's canceled, they looked at it and said, boy, we probably need to cancel the June, or we need to cancel the July, or we're not taking any trips this year. So there was a wave of those cancellations. And now as we open back up, we're trying to fill a much larger portion of the rental season that normally under normal conditions would already be booked. So if we would typically go into May with maybe 80-85% occupancy booked, then I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we're at 40-45% right now from people that canceled. So we got to fill that stuff back up in a short period of time. Bottom line is, there's no doubt that the income level for short-term nightly rentals and stuff is going to be impacted this year, and it remains to be seen how much that's going to impact as the season ends. People that are going to go back on the market and decide, they don't want to keep these anymore. On the other part of the investment side is the long-term rentals. We're a heavy market when it comes to service industry, and the service industry has also been shut down, as everybody knows, for quite some time, and that impacts if they are renting property, or even if they own property, then that's affecting their income. So that's going to be a trickle-down effect. We don't really know the impact of that yet, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. So wanted to share these three. These are probably the most obvious changes that have happened recently. If you have any other questions or want more information on something specific that you're wondering about, feel free to text me, email me, and I will be providing these updates as I see things change and as we evolve through the rest of the opening up process. So I look forward to talking with you soon. Again, thanks.